I want you to imagine you are at the park. Here, you are just sitting and observing the passerbys, the nature, and the scenery. Interrupting their walk in the park, two friends spot each other and approach one another. What a lovely surprise! You notice one of the friends has been pushing a stroller and brings out the baby for what appears to be their first time meeting their parent's friend. After a bright, hello, and a handshake with only a few fingers, the baby becomes fussy. As an observer, you assume the baby is overwhelmed by this spontaneous meeting and expect them to be comforted before re entering their stroller. To your surprise, the parent doesn't seem fazed. They just reach into their pocket and give what was in there to the child. You can't make out what it is fully until you see the parent aiding them in lighting it on fire. It's a cigarette. The parents joke that their child loves these things and can't get them away from them. Okay, you can laugh. The idea of a baby smoking a cigarette is so absurd, it becomes funny. It also makes me think of that AI generated picture of the baby made of ash, and I think that is equally funny. Jokes aside, wouldn't this be at the least weird? It might fill you with horrible feelings about the parent, and if this is a world where tobacco isn't heavily regulated like it is now, you may also be filled with these feelings about the tobacco companies and the government from not protecting this poor child. To be clear, I'm from the US, so I'm speaking from a very US oriented point of view. I know this may seem like a crazy analogy, but more and more people are drawing similarities between tech and social platform companies and big tobacco throughout the 1900s. These devices, like tablets and smartphones, are addictive and can be really harmful to the developing brains of children with access to them. As a whole, I feel like we are really overlooking this, and I want to talk about it. In this video, I am finishing all of my incompleted projects, which is a lot. I have started a lot of projects and never ended up finishing them, and they kind of just accumulate around my room because if I put them away, then I'm never going to finish them, but I was never going to finish them in the first place. I don't know, it's a bad cycle. Anyway, I am going to be doing a couple different things in this video, so if you're watching this, it means I have completed an incredible feat. I also will have a couple of things up on my Etsy store, literally just to get rid of them. So if you're interested, I'm going to be selling things like these heads of dolls that I am never going to use because I don't like them. It's probably going to be like $5. I just want to get rid of them. So feel free to check that out if you are a freak and for some reason want this. I actually am going to be putting all but one of the things that I'm making in this video on my Etsy store. So if I make something that you would like, you're welcome to it. I feel like I don't even need to introduce this topic. Even if you have never heard the term iPad children before, I am sure you have seen a kid needing to spend every second on their iPad or similar technology, or else they become incredibly emotionally unregulated. Of course, we can't hold children to the highest standard when it comes to emotional regulation because, well, their brain isn't done growing and they haven't learned how to. Children getting visibly upset when things don't go their way is normal. They do not have a lot of the ability to process logic the way that adults can. They can't exercise impulse control well, and these emotions seem big to them because, in the grand scheme of things, this might actually be the worst thing they remember experiencing. How can we differentiate the expression between a child acting reasonably for their age and the expressions of a child mentally experiencing withdrawals? To explore this, I want to review a study from 2025 about healthy adults when using social media. This study took 100 adults and studied their brainwaves via electroencephalography. Um, it's an EEG. I just really love saying that. Electroencephalography. They had each participant use the platforms for 30 minutes and measured their brainwaves during their use. This study is really interesting, but I am going to try to remain as minimally technical as I can to really cut to the point. If you want to read about this, I will link all my sources in the description. Knock yourself out, it's a long paper. In this study, they found participants would be significantly less relaxed after social media use, and with sustained use, they would stay in a heightened state for some time after using it. This was especially true for those who watched emotionally intense content. You can probably relate to this in your own life. Many people report feeling worse once they spend time on especially divisive forms of social media. The brainwaves also implied that people are more likely to remain emotionally heightened and experiencing their strong feelings for a while, even after they are no longer using the platform. In the conclusion of this paper, they state, our findings highlight that prolonged engagement with emotionally charged or visually stimulating content may disrupt cognitive recovery and contribute to mental fatigue, mood disturbances, and compulsive use patterns. At this point, I think it becomes important to understand what exactly kids are doing with their technology. For this video, I want to be all-inclusive, but also realistic. I'm going to say in this discussion, children are using these devices for a few things. Since kids can be different ages, we also have to keep that in mind. Young children, like infants to 10-year-olds, will primarily use their devices for games and content. This can be YouTube, television programs, mobile games, Roblox. You get the picture. Older children, like 11 through teenagers, can use their technology for these and additionally use them for more social aspects, like social media. I understand there is a chance a 5-year-old is on Instagram, but I want to say the bulk of young children are not using their technology this way. While the study we discussed earlier was specifically for social media use, I do not think the effects of social media are necessarily limited to their platform. Going back to this quote, the researchers did not specifically blame social media for these outcomes, but they referenced emotionally charged or visually stimulating content. I think this can apply to a lot of what children could consume with their devices. What is Cocomelon if not visually stimulating? What is getting rage baited on Roblox if not emotionally charged? I want to go back through the outcomes of this study and pose the question, is this good for children? Disruption in cognitive recovery? No. Mental fatigue? No. Mood disturbances? No. Compulsive use patterns? Like addiction? Surely they don't mean addiction. Our findings show that social media engages in brain reward pathways akin to those seen in addictive behavior. Well, that's too bad. In my last video, I discussed how AI use could be harmful to the way that you think. Since maybe one person watching this video has also seen that video, I will probably be repeating myself. If you are that one person, I'm so sorry. Guys, comment down below if you are my only loyal viewer. Before we get too far into this video, I want to reiterate a point I made in my last one. I don't want to shame parents for making this decision. There are a lot of reasons why parents will choose to give their child technology. Even if I were to rattle off a list of 500 different reasons, I still wouldn't be able to speak for every parent and their methodology for raising their child. Parents get so much shame placed on them for every decision they make, and I don't want this video to be jumping on the bandwagon. Some parents are just put in difficult situations. For example, if a parent is going to school and working at the same time, they may not be able to spend as much time with their child and therefore give them a device that they will have fun using while they're gone. Parents in this situation could get criticized for giving their child the device or for not spending time with their child, but this criticism is largely ignoring the fact that the parent is working very hard to improve the circumstances for the family. Many parents do not have money to enroll their child in extracurriculars, some don't live in a neighborhood where playing outside is a safe option, and some don't have the education to offer their children some of the information they could get from a device. Also, tech is cool, and people and kids like it. I also want to keep in mind that every parent has different rules and boundaries set for these devices, and making any kind of blanket statement about these wouldn't be correct for many situations. I think this topic is a really important one to discuss, but I want more of my criticism to be towards governments who allow large corporations to take advantage of these children and less so on the individual parents who, most likely, are trying their best with the hand they were dealt. Okay, I have to address him. I can't escape him. I feel like he is around every corner when I am doing research in this area. Maybe I'm safe from him in this article about lawsuits against big tech? He's quoted there? Well, surely he has never spoken to Jordan Peterson and been on his podcast. Okay, yeah, I guess he did that too for some reason. For those of you who don't know, this guy in the picture is Jonathan Haidt. He is a sociologist and has really overwhelmed the scene when it comes to the correlation between tech and mental health. He is most well known for his book, The Anxious Generation, which I have read, so don't mind my subtle book flex. While he makes a lot of interesting points in this book, he has been criticized by psychologists and other doctors regarding his points. He has received a lot of criticism for not clearly differentiating between correlation and causation. Throughout the book, he makes claims along the lines of children have worse mental health and phones are more popular now, therefore, the phones must be the problem. He does try to negate other variables throughout the book, but this is not enough to entirely prove his point of causation. I think he makes some good points, but I also think he has a mindset more akin to phone bad than to devices should be used in moderation. So I'm going to take his points with a grain of salt. From this book, I have selected 3 claims that I think are worth expounding upon a little bit. Number 1, the replacement of play with tech. Haidt talks a lot about how children need to play, almost to the point of reminding me of my grandparents saying, "When I was your age, we would play outside. We didn't have video games." But not quite there yet. A lot of his points relate to the idea that children actually learn quite a bit when they play. He makes note of how children participating in imaginary play are better later on in communication and social awareness than those who do not. He talks about how children learn a lot about motor coordination and physics when they play outside. And he talks about how children need opportunity to do these things. He draws the conclusion that if children are not given the opportunity to do this technology free, they will have less opportunities to practice and learn these skills. While I agree with him for the most part, I have anecdotally experienced something I would like to mention to add a bit more complexity to this conversation. I have a younger sister who is almost 10 years younger than me. She is a certified pure blood iPad kid from birth. When she was a baby, it was frozen on repeat on that iPad. Hearing that over and over again brewed something evil inside me, and I don't know what, but one day I'm going to hear Let It Go, and it will come out of me. Anyway, what I find interesting is that she grew out of playing with dolls much younger than I did. This is fine. Everyone develops differently. What particularly piqued my interest is the way she plays Roblox with her friends. I have overheard her on a phone call playing Roblox with her friends and acting out stories with their imaginations, just like you would see kids playing with their toys. Is it possible that they are losing some kind of mental lesson they are supposed to? Maybe, but I would argue this is fulfilling the same kind of social play and teaching similar social lessons as if they were playing with dolls. I don't want to claim that this is the solution to this concern, but when it comes to Roblox and other online games targeted to children, we have more important issues to address. Number 2. Unfortunately, one of the points from this book that I'm going to bring up is from a researcher he quotes, and not even from him. What I can say is she makes a great point. Anna Lemke actually wrote a book I read and loved. That book is Dopamine Nation, and I lent it to a friend, and she hasn't given it back even though it was 2 years ago. I want it back so bad. Anyway, Dopamine Nation is actually the book Haidt is referring to. He recounts how Lemke treated many teenagers for screen addictions and claims they experience similar symptoms to those who experience other substance addictions. One day I want to make a video on drugs and addiction and the neurology of it, but I need that damn book back first. He uses Lemke's book to draw the association that dopamine released when using these devices creates a behavioral addiction. The last point I want to mention from this book is Haid's mentioning of sleep deprivation. While it is not concrete that a smartphone or tablet could cause depression or anxiety symptoms to present, what is pretty sound is the correlation between excessive screen time and sleep deprivation. Another study I found states that young adults spend a significant amount of time using smartphones, which directly leads to decreased sleep quality. This subsequently predisposes them to multiple adverse physical as well as psychological health outcomes. Spending time on these devices has been reported over and over again to decrease quality of sleep, especially when using them directly before bed. While getting poor sleep probably won't induce a psychological or physical disorder, it is very likely to exacerbate symptoms. For psychological disorders, this can be more frequent panic attacks, greater feelings of depression or lack of excitement, and extreme changes in mood. Especially in children, these points are all important to consider. Childhood is a very crucial point in development, and there is so much growing and learning that needs to occur. All of these mentioned in the book could inhibit this growth and development in children. Lack of movement, outdoor play, and spending a lot of time laying or sitting watching a device can result in underdeveloped motor coordination and muscle definition. Developing a digital addiction at such a young age can prevent children from being curious, exploring hobbies, practicing creativity, and can severely harm mental health. Getting insufficient sleep as a child can cause so many detrimental consequences, including later in life. I found another study explaining the potential outcomes for children with inadequate sleep, including improper hormones, higher risk for obesity, and risk for high blood pressure. In the cognitive realm, the functions impacted include attention, intelligence, academic performance, memory, and mental health. This paper also corroborates Haid's point, explaining how poor sleep can exacerbate symptoms of disorders like anxiety, depression, and ADHD. Listen, I am not perfect. Sleep is sometimes really hard to prioritize, and I did 100% hide my DS under my blanket so my mom wouldn't know I was using it after bedtime. In a perfect world, all children would get perfect sleep. Unfortunately, this will never be the case. What is much more realistic is advocating to local school districts to offer education to parents about the importance of sleep in an accessible way, or giving more support to parents with children so they can spend more time making sure their child is getting an appropriate amount of sleep. You can only put so much pressure on the parents. Do you want to tell the single parent who works overnight shifts at the hospital that they are doing their child a disservice by not monitoring their sleep time? I don't. I have been discussing children in general up until this point, but I want to shift the focus to younger children, specifically in reference to another paper I found. This one is a scoping review, meaning the researchers have read hundreds of research papers and found the most common data among the group. In many of the papers cited in this report, one of the adverse outcomes listed is poor sleep quality, which can lead to many of the negative effects we discussed before. Okay, fine. I know what you are all here for. You want to see me dunk on the kid having a meltdown because they have to spend time at the playground and not on their iPad watching Coco Melon or pregnant Spider-Man and Elsa cosplay. I don't know why that exists. While I can't really roast them, I can use some research in this paper to condense their behavior into a box. Does that suffice? How about a speed run of some of the ones worth mentioning? One study states that screen media multitasking at 18 months, or device multitasking, is associated with decreased preschool cognition at 4 years and behavioral problems at 4 and 6 years. Boom, roasted. This paper states that through all of the papers, 48% of the factors studied were found to be associated with behavioral emotional difficulties. Boom, roasted. A study of device use during meals had an adverse outcome of difficult temperament. Boom, roasted. And finally, a study of children who were given technology from the ages of 1 to 2 found the adverse outcomes of sleep problems, emotional behavioral difficulties, astigmatism risk, anger, hyperactivity, and this list is how long? I'm not going to finish reading them off because that's going to bum me out. And honestly, boom, roasted. The last point I want to make is that kids are generally unsafe on the internet. Roblox, a game marketed specifically to kids, has an issue with pedophiles. Social media platforms have absolutely no safeguards in place for any potential children or minors using them, and they don't even enforce the rule that they're not supposed to have accounts in the first place. I know so many people who had some kind of weird relationship online where they were either groomed or had to talk someone down from hurting themselves every other day. Abuse, manipulation, and child endangerment runs rampant online, and if we aren't going to stop kids from using it, and it doesn't seem like we are given how much schools are throwing Chromebooks at kids, we need to do a much better job keeping them safe. Um, I don't want to end on a bad note, so I can offer some good news. There is a recent lawsuit that is going after how big tech companies are knowingly taking advantage of their young users. What is especially cool about this is that the plaintiffs include 1,200 different school districts. That is awesome to me because who knows children better than their schools? If you're interested in taking some action, you can check to see if a school district near you is a part of this, and if they aren't, you can reach out to them and urge them to participate. If they can. I don't know how lawsuits work. Sorry. Superintendents are a lot easier to reach than you might think. Anyway, take care of the children around you. And also, take care of yourself. Bye.